Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is all about showing your red, white, and blue colors. I just love the patriotic holidays that are right in front of us, and I have some beautiful favorite red, white, and blue DIYs to share with you today. On Friday of this week, I will have a brand new video with more red, white, and blue decor for you, so make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss that upload. Let's get right into the DIYs. This is like a handkerchief napkin that I got in the party section at Hobby Lobby. I got it when it was on sale. It came in a pack of 4, and I have used other 4 that I've done other things with, so I just had this one left over. And I'm going to use this glue. Now, I forget to show it to you right here, but this glue is called Unique Stitch. And I did a video, my last video was all about how easy this stuff is sewing in a tube. So if you don't have capability or want to sew or want it to be quicker, this works just like sewing, needle and thread. I make tons of pillows out of it. So I'll link that video down in my description box if you want to look at that. I make some awesome pillow covers that you can wash and everything. But I'm going to make an actual pillow with this. So I'm just putting glue around those 2 sides there. And then once you do that, you just want to kind of go with your finger over the glue. Now, I don't love using hot glue because this is so thin that I don't want it to come through and burn my fingers. And this glue, you have a little bit of working time. So that way, like if you need to peel it up and stick it back, you didn't get it lined up right, you can do that. And you can see how tough it is there. I was just showing you. I let this dry overnight, just to give you an idea. Let it dry for 24 hours to get that really firm hold on it. So now I'm just taking some stuffing that I had from another pillow that I had used for something. And I love to get pillows on clearance, specifically for the stuffing, because it's cheaper than buying like actual stuffing at the fabric store. So there's a little hack for you. I thought that this little napkin would be the perfect little shape and size for a cute little lumbar pillow, maybe like on a porch, on a chair, or even just like in your regular couch or something like that, just somewhere to kind of bring that little bit of patriotic touch in there. So you can see I'm just fluffing up that little fluff there, and I just kind of peel it off. It's like clumpy in the big clumps, so I'm just breaking it down so that way it kind of fluffs the pillow a little bit easier. So now I'm going to come and get the end glued. Now you could easily use hot glue for this part if you wanted to. Also, I'm just going to use the Unique Stitch here and just put it along. You just want to make sure that your stuffing is back in the pillow so you have enough working space with your fabric. And since there is stuffing in here, you're going to need some type of clamp or something, even like paper clips would work because this is very thin, just something to hold the glue while it dries because the stuffing is going to want to pop it open. So I'm just getting the edges lined up here with my glue, and if I need to add a little bit more, then I'll do that here. I will leave a link to this glue down in my description box, so if you're wanting to find it easily, you can find it there. But I just get it at Joann's or Hobby Lobby. If you can get it on sale or use a coupon, definitely do that. So you can see I just clamp all of the edges there, and then I'll just let this dry for a couple of hours. The reason why I don't let this dry overnight before I take these off is because I'm not going to be doing anything to compromise the seam there. Whereas before I was going to be stuffing the pillow. I didn't want those seams to come apart. So here I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to kind of fluff the pillow up, get that fluffing. Well, I'm kind of fluffing that, I guess, but get the stuffing down into the corners so that way they look nice and full. And then I just kind of knead the stuffing all around just to kind of make it be a nice full pillow, and it doesn't have like really any lumps or anything. But for a couple of bucks and a little bit of glue, I feel like this turned out so cute. So next time you see some napkins, definitely keep in mind that this is a really easy hack. Even placemats are easy to do this with. But what do you guys think of this flag pillow? Is this something that you would put out in your decor? This is a thrift flip that I'm going to try here. I got this finial at my local thrift store. It says I paid $1.50 for it here. I love this piece, and the black color really is great, but I wanted it to be a really white chippy look. So I'm trying a new technique. If you guys have watched my distressing, you'll know that I've never actually done like the wax candle technique, and I've had a few of you tell me to try it out, how good it works. And so I thought this would be the perfect project because I really wanted this to have kind of a chippy look to it. So I'm going around all of the raised areas on this finial. Now you can buy finials at Home Depot, Lowe's, like in their like where the banisters and things are. I feel like you can find these a lot of times at your craft stores, home decor stores, wherever. I found mine at a thrift store. So if you find any of them, I think this is a perfect project, and it can be any shape or any size. So after I got all of the wax on all of the edges and all of the pieces, I went around with just some white chalk paint. You can do whatever color. I thought that the chippy white would be really good, especially since for this project, I'm wanting to bring in that red, white, and blue look. So I'm just going through, I give this 2 or 3 coats, I think closer to 3 coats to get get the coverage that I want of that white paint. And you can see here just going all over the entire finial. I do really light coats here. I was nervous as I was doing this that it was going to rub off at this point on the wax. It totally did not. It was totally fine. This is definitely a technique I think I'll try in the future though, because I really liked how it turned out. So you can see how the coverage ends up being on this finial, how you can't really see that black at all. Now, there were two ways that I did this. The first one, I grabbed a baby wipe. I think a wet towel might have done a little bit of a better job than the baby wipe did, but I'm just wiping off around the edges where I knew that wax was, and it just wipes off. You have to use a little bit of elbow grease, but it does go around each of the edges there to wipe off that wax where it was like a barrier so the paint doesn't stick there. And then after I kind of got to this part and thought, that's a little bit hard, I do end up getting out my putty knife, and it does scrape off really well where the wax was. So keep that in mind here, and I'll show you that here in just a second after I use this. But if I'm to do this again, I really do think that I will just get a wet towel rather than the baby wipe, because I think it would cause a little bit more friction. So here you can see me using that putty knife. So I just kind of went over all of the areas, and then I would wipe it down with the baby wipe, because you do get a little bit of the scratch marks on there from that putty knife. But I think this is looking really good, and I just love how you can see all of that detail start to show out in it, and you can see all of that little chippiness there. I did drill a hole in the top of it so I could place my flag in there, so you could change that out for different seasons or different flags or countries you're wanting to represent. But I think this turned out absolutely beautiful and perfect for summertime to have on a porch or a mantle or somewhere in your home. I absolutely love how this DIY turns out in the end, and honestly, I got this heart shape at Dollar Tree, but you can really use any type of heart shape that you have or any type of other shape. You can definitely translate it to anything to make it yours. Now, I'm just starting with painting a base coat of white paint all over the entire heart. This is going to be like a door hanger, or that you would hang off of a shelf on a peg or something. You'll kind of see how it turns out, but you could make it any size too if you wanted to make it larger. I think it would be really cute. Now, I just kind of decided where I wanted the blue part of my heart to be, because I'm going to kind of do this with a flag pattern. And so I just taped it off where I felt like I wanted the blue area to end. And I'm just painting that top portion blue there. Let that dry. It takes a couple of coats, and then using some washi tape, because I wanted some little stripes here to give that flag appearance. I'm just using that as my barrier here and just painting some red paint for the stripes. And then I just carefully go through and do a couple coats on these to make sure that I'm getting the coverage that I want. I just painted over these with a brush, and that washi tape works wonderfully to act as the barrier there to make these crisp, clean stripes. If you ever get any bleed through or anything, just go back with that original color, like in this case, the white, and kind of clean that up a bit if you need to. But these turned out absolutely beautiful. And now I'm just doing the same thing on the other side, because I don't know exactly where this is going to be hanging or if it will like flip around or anything like that. I just wanted the back to be finished, so I am just doing the exact same thing on the back to get those stripes, and you can see how crisp and clear those come out. So now I have to distress everything. If you guys know me, you know that that's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm just taking an emery board. I like to use nail files to do my distressing like this. I feel like you can really get into those nooks and crannies really well with that. And I just get them off Amazon. You guys ask all the time. I have them linked down in my description box if you're curious about those. But really, any emery boards will do. Even the ones you buy at the Dollar Tree will work just fine. So I just go through on all of the edges here, just sanding it, making it have a really rustic. I was kind of going for a really primitive type Americana feel with this, and so I really wanted to make sure that I got all of the little edges and everything distressed really well. And then I did take just some normal sandpaper, and I did decide to go over the top of the design to make it look a little bit faded there. Now I just have these star shapes. I bought a bag of them at a craft, or not a craft show, but a garage sale. That's the word. I have a bag of them, so they're kind of any type of star shape will work. You could even skip this step if you wanted to, but I just painted that star a gold color. Now on my flag here, I wanted to have some little stars, so I don't have my dotting tool because I'm pretty sure my girls stole it to do their nails, but I just took the back side of a paintbrush. There's my daughter actually waving hello to us. I thought I would just leave that in. So everybody just say hi to my cute little daughter's fingers there. Anyway, I just used the back of a paintbrush to do some little stars. I would just start with a dot, and then I just drug it out to the 5 points of the stars there. It doesn't need to be super like clean or anything. You can tell that there's stars on there, and I really like the rustic primitive look there. Now I took a little bit of Spanish moss. I'm going to put that underneath my star here. My daughter was so cute. She was talking to me while I was making this, and she goes, "Oh, the little Spanish moss looks like an eagle's nest." And I was like, she is not wrong. It totally does. So I'm just taking that star there, and I just put a little bit of antiquing wax around the edge after I sanded it to give it a little bit of a rustic look. And I'll do the same thing on the heart here. Just go around all of the edges with a little bit of antiquing wax on a baby wipe. I like to use the baby wipes because they're already moist. I don't have to wet a paper towel or anything like that when I do this. And the wetness of the baby wipes helps to get that antiquing wax on and not be quite as thick in areas. I get asked that every once in a while why us crafters use baby wipes all the time. And they really are a crafting necessity. You use them so much, but it is because they're already moist. I'm not having to leave my station to run to the sink to wet a paper towel or a towel or anything. So they're just very handy. So now I just put through some twine to make this the hanger. I'm using some of that thicker twine. I did have to use the end of a paintbrush to stick that through and use some pliers to pull it out because that hole was not quite as big as it probably should have been, but I did make it work. And then I'm just tying this off. Oh, before I tie it off though, my daughter had the suggestion of adding these cute little beads to it, which I think completely make this. So I add 2 of them on there. These are just wooden beads. I mean, you guys can get them anywhere, but I do like to buy the garlands that Hobby Lobby has in the fall and Christmas time that you use like for your Christmas tree or your mantle. You get them for like $6 and you get a ton of beads on them. So now I'm just tying this off on the end here so that way we can have that portion to hang it with, whether you hang it off a door handle or wherever it's there. And now I'm just gluing on our little eagle's nest, as my daughter calls it there, which I thought was so cute. And then I'm just going to glue that star on the top of it. I just loved the little texture and embellishment that added. You guys know I love adding little embellishments if I can. So if that's not your style, just skip that part. But I absolutely think that gives that primitive look. Here the piece is finished, and I think this turns out absolutely darling. I would love to know what you guys think of this, if this is something that you would try or where in your home you would hang this. I've got a cute little shelf that I'm excited to hang this from. I think it will be absolutely perfect. I am really excited to tell you about a new product that I have found. This is some transfer artist paper. I'm going to link it down in my description box so you guys can check it out for yourself, but I'm just showing you here all of the different surfaces that it says that you can do this on. There are so many. I'm going to do it on like a tea towel today for your kitchen, but it gives you the instructions on the back. It says almost any surface that you can place it on. You have to use an iron or a heat press or something. You do have to use a printer. It's for inkjet printers, not laser, but inkjet printers, which is what most people have. And then this is just a tea towel that I got off Amazon. I made some of these a couple weeks ago, and I absolutely loved how they turned out. So I thought I would share with you how it worked. You do want to make sure that your image is reversed because you're going to be placing it onto your surface face down. And so it is just kind of like a typical iron-on transfer. So whatever you do, you just want to make sure that you reverse that image before you print it. Now, I have this image of this cute little Americana sheep that I got on Etsy a while back. I'll see if I can find it and link it for you guys if you're interested in that. And I just printed it out and I typed Old Glory underneath it. And I did it in Canva so that way I could reverse the image. That was the easiest way for me to get it reversed. And all you do is you just cut around the edges. Now, if you have a cutting machine, you can definitely use this paper with a cutting machine and it works great. But if you don't, you are totally in luck because I feel like it's even easier just to cut it with the scissors. Now, I'm just showing you the instructions here, the temperature. I go at the lower temperature for these tea towels. And then the time, I just find out where exactly I want to place this on my tea towel and the exact space here. I'm just pulling this all the way out. Now you will want to, when you're doing this, press or iron your surface first there. So I've done that here and I found the middle of my towel. That's what that crease is there as I folded it in half to find that middle. And then I'm going to find the middle of my image here and I'm just going to kind of put a little crease in the top so I can match that up to get it as centered as possible. You guys can definitely measure with a ruler or tape measure as much as you want. I just kind of eyeball it, you guys know that. And I feel like it works pretty well, but that's a simple way for finding the middle. There is how I did that. Okay, so now I went and I pressed this with my heat press. So you can use your iron, your Cricut heat press. If you have an industrial heat press, just somehow you have to get that heat on there. And then I'm peeling that off there. It says to do it while it's still kind of warm or a little bit cool. But you guys, it turns out so great. That color is so beautiful. It transfers so well. It's smooth. It's not like crisp or anything like that that's gonna like crack or anything. And I have washed a couple of these that I've done, and they've washed up beautifully just in your regular wash. And I think these are, they're perfect for t-shirts. I'm so excited to try this for a lot of other projects. So watch for those coming. But what do you guys think? Is this a process that you guys would like to try? Would you like to see more items with it? Because I'm really excited to work with it. This DIY was inspired by a flag that I saw at Vintage Market Days. So I'm just taking a wooden dowel just out of one of the packages you can get at the craft store or at Dollar Tree. So you just need one wooden dowel. And then I'm just using some scrap fabric that I had. You want something that kind of shows like a red and white stripe. It can be as bright, big stripes, little stripes, however you want, just to kind of give the impression of a flag. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this little glue gun. I got this little glue gun from Hippo. It's kind of a cordless and it's got like this little teeny nozzle on it. It is a great glue gun. I can leave a link to that down in the description box if you would like. I think that it works great, but this was the first project that I made with it. So I'm just using a little bit of glue. You could easily use some of the Unique Stitch glue to do this with. However, this one I'm not going to, it's just kind of very rustic. So I feel like the hot glue is okay to use. And this glue doesn't get super hot, so I wasn't burning myself with it. But I'm just folding back all of the edges, like the seams, creating a hem, so that way you're not going to have any frayed fabric. Now, frayed fabric might look really cute, so if that's the idea you're going for, very rustic like that, you can definitely do that. And then I'm doing just the fourth side. This is going to be the side that goes around our little wooden dowel. So I did want to make sure that that didn't fray either. So I have this ribbon. This came from Joann's. I've seen a little star ribbon like this at Dollar Tree. I've seen it at Hobby Lobby. So anything similar, some fabric would work really easily too. Even like polka dots if you didn't want to do stars or something. So this is just wired ribbon. So I just only need to fold down the edges that I cut, so that way the fabric, or the ribbon is not going to fray. And then just using my little glue here, I just put it on the little bottom, or actually I put on the top piece because I'm putting on the top there to make sure that sticks. And then you'll kind of see how I flip this around here. There we go. And so then that little piece of the blue fabric is on the table there, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the other three sides of it, and then you just fold that flap of fabric over. So it's just giving the idea of a cute little rustic flag here. And now we're just going to attach our dowel. So you can see I just kind of roll that fabric over it, and I decide to put, and I'm just making sure it's all lined up and how it looks, because you can just kind of eyeball it how far you want that dowel to stick out at the top and how much you want actually curled around. So now I'm just putting some hot glue right around where the dowel is, because I want that dowel to be in place before I fold the fabric over. So I do a bead of hot glue along the dowel and then along the edge of the fabric to fold over, so that way it will glue it to itself to make this darling little flag. But look at how cute that looks. I think it looks so cute. It's going to be perfect to stick like in a plant or stick in a little cute mason jar or something like that. Super fun. That wired ribbon makes it so you can kind of bend it a little bit. Here it is in a little plant. I think this looks darling, even coming off of like a tiered tray. So easy. I just use scrap fabric that I have, but it would not be very expensive to go get any other little fabric or anything like that. And I think it's just darling. So I found this particular sign at Hobby Lobby in their clearance. You can see it was $3 and change that I paid for it there. Now, if you don't have something like this, you can use these little squares right here from Dollar Tree, and any type of sign back that you want to glue this to, one's from Dollar Tree or anything. Or if you find just a cute texture on a sign, just pick up a pack of those squares from Dollar Tree and you can recreate this really easily. So if you blink, you'll miss this craft because it is so simple and so easy. I got this free printable online. I'll leave a link to it down in my description box so you can find it. I believe I had to enter my email address into the website, so just know that you have to do that. And then they email you a password and you have access to their whole library of free printables. But I thought this little watercolor flag was absolutely beautiful. And I love the watercolor designs. So I cut it out I printed it out on cardstock, just using regular inkjet printer. And I'm setting it down here. This is cardstock. And so I'm just kind of running my finger over the edges so I kind of know how big that square is. I wanted this to have a very tattered look, so I will end up tearing the edges on this, but you can easily use a paper cutter, give it more of a crisp look. I mean, make it your own when you make it. In fact, if you guys are taking some of the items that I make and you're wanting to do them in different colors, or you're telling me like, oh, if it was me doing this, I would have done this instead. I love that you guys are thinking like that, because it just means that your creative juices are flowing and you're thinking of how you can make things tailored to your style or your design aesthetic. And I love that because it just means you're thinking like a creator. And so if you want to copy things exactly how I do them, go right ahead, but it will definitely get those creative juices. But when you're looking at things going, I think I'd rather do this instead, or I like this color, or I wouldn't do that, that just means that you're thinking like a creator. So I absolutely love that, and I love hearing all of your different ideas. So after I tear all of the edges there, I take some antiquing wax on a brush and I just go around the edges. I wanted to give this an aged look here. Again, this is something that is a matter of personal preference. And I'm just going around, you can see very clearly on each of the edges there. And then I do it on the underneath piece of this wood. So that way the pieces of the wood that peek through will also have that aged look. And then you guys, you guessed it, I'm going to use my favorite school glue. This purple glue stick from Elmer's is like my favorite stuff in the whole world to use instead of Mod Podge when I'm gluing things down, because I don't get any bubbles, I don't get any wrinkling. I have never had an issue with it coming up. This particular brand of glue. Now, I have used other brands of glue that I have not been happy with, but I have not once had an issue with this. So I make sure all of the edges are covered. I put a little bit on the surface as well. And then I straighten this out. Once I get it on here, you do have a little bit of time to kind of manipulate it into the area or design that you want, or not design, but to get it as straight as you want. I realized it wasn't quite as straight. And then I do always get my brayer out and I roll it over. That helps get those two pieces bonded together. You can see right here, there was a few pieces of the ripped paper that were sticking over the edge I didn't like. So I just went ahead and ripped them off. Super easy there. And then this is just the rest of the antiquing wax that was in my little brush there. I'm going over the top of it to kind of give it that aged look there, kind of a little bit more so it's not as stark. Again, that's a matter of personal preference, but here's the brayer, I'm going over the top of it to make sure both directions that it's really bonded. I did take some of this Mod Podge right here and I just went over the top of it to give it a seal, get it sealed, so that way it's waterproof. If I decide to put this on my porch or anything, or if you decide to sell this or anything, it does give it that professional look and it does make that paper protected. But what do you guys think? Do you like this? I love the look of that shiplap with this flag. I think it's beautiful and it's perfect for summertime and any type of Americana look that you're going for. One of my favorite things to do is look at the Hobby Lobby clearance section for these little signs for sign blanks, because sometimes you get some really good hefty sign pieces that are really not much more expensive than buying them at Dollar Tree, and I feel like they're a little bit of a better quality. So this one was cute the way it was, but I don't really need that saying in my life right now, so I'm just going to paint over it and make something that I will actually use. And so I'm just going to make a cute little patriotic piece here. So I'm just covering that all with just some white chalk paint, and it does take about 3 or 4 coats to get that completely covered there. So now I am just using some painter's tape to tape out some stripes, and I'm just using a little teeny piece of tape there just kind of as my spacer, so that way the lines are even and I know that I'm getting everything lined up right. So I'll just take that little extra piece off there, and then I'm going to paint some cute little red stripes on here. Now, when I'm taping off stripes like this, I like to put a little bit of the paint on my sponge brush here, and I like to pounce up and down in a motion. Now, this is sped up, so I do it a little slowly. You just want to make sure that you're getting all of the edges. You want to let this first layer dry completely before you go on, and then you can paint like normal back and forth with strokes and everything. You just want to seal off that space of the tape, and I've run my finger over the tape to make sure that it's all stuck down. Now, you can kind of see how the coverage is after that first coat. You definitely are going to want multiple coats of this. So now I can just kind of go back and forth just like you were painting normally. It kind of evens the paint out and everything. And I just do this on all of the stripes there. And then there's always the moment of truth where you peel back the tape here. Now, it did peel a little bit of the front piece of that sign off. It doesn't matter to me because I am going to sand this and distress it, and I cover it with a little bit of paint. And you can kind of see down on my bottom stripe there was just a little teeny area of bleed through. That is super easy to fix with just a paintbrush going in and touching that up. So that's all I'm going to do. And then I just kind of covered that little area. I don't even know if you can see it really well where the sign tore right there. But since I'm going to be sanding this and want it to be rustic, look. It's totally fine. So at first I go around the edge and I sand off all of the edges. You don't have to sand if you don't want to. I know that's very much a personal preference, but I do kind of like that worn look, have it very farmhouse. And then I kind of go back and forth on my stripes. When you're doing red and white like this, you want to pay attention to not sanding over the entire piece, because what happens is you're going to make your white lines become pink if you do that, and you don't want to get a wipe and wipe it because it will also make them pink. So I just try and stick in the in the red areas and just sand those only, and then I just blow the excess dust off of there. So I have this wind chime piece that came from Dollar Tree here, and I think that it's super cute. The little shape of America. I'm so excited. I've used this in another DIY, and I think this is just the cutest little shape. I'm just painting over all of those lines there. I paint it blue, obviously, and then I'm using just a couple of the Jenga blocks to put onto the back of it. This is just going to make it give it that three-dimensional like pop out look. I think it looks a little bit more high end, but you obviously could skip doing this part if you wanted to. And then I'm just going to put some glue on the back of those Jenga blocks and then glue it onto the little stripes there. I just even it out the best that I can and make sure, and I just eyeball everything. I don't really measure anything, but this little star came in the kit. So I went ahead and painted it white. I thought it would be really cute to put on there. There are little holes cut into like the little shape of America in that star. So I covered the hole on the America with the star, and then I'm covering the hole on the star with just a little finger bow from the twine. And I thought it would be really cute to go around and dry brush the edge of this. Now, I should have done this before, but I didn't know that I wanted to do it. But it does kind of help it pop a little bit more. And so just lightly, I'm going around the edges all here just to kind of help that pop a little bit more. But I think this turned out so cute. I love this. This is a piece that I'm going to use for several years. It's a perfect shelf sitter. I think it's darling. And really, I mean, it was like $3 to make. And I think it turned out so cute. What do you guys think of this?
A few videos back, I did a darling little tin that was very much like this that I rescued from my mother-in-law's house. It was on its way to the thrift store. And I also have this little watering can tin that is the same pattern that is on it, or very similar. But I did learn with that bucket that this is paper that is on here. You can see how that kind of comes up. And it was a huge pain for me to remove from that bucket. So I'm trying to use the lessons I learned from that with this. So I sanded all over to kind of take the glossiness off of this paper. I then took it to my kitchen sink and had it soak for about 20 minutes just in warm water, and it wiped completely clean. All of that paper, I could just use my finger to wipe it off. I'm sorry I don't have any footage of that, but it was very easy to do that, and then I just wiped it down with a towel to make sure this is really clear. Now I am just using some white paint. I end up doing the entire thing in one coat, and then you can kind of see where my surface line is there. That's where my blue paint's going to go on the top of my watering can. And I'm just using some painter's tape to get that line on there so I have that area to do my little blue star section for a flag, because I want to do this in a flag pattern. Now I feel like if you don't have a watering can at home, they're pretty easy to find at just your gardening store or vintage markets, thrift stores, things like that. But if you don't have a watering can, this would be darling just using one of those tin Dollar Tree buckets that they have. The taller ones I think would be so cute to do that with too. So I'm just using a couple strips of the 1-inch painter's tape to do my stripes. So if you have 2-inch painter's tape, that would be much easier, but this was the only tape I had on hand. So I just go all the way around and I'm just painting or get that spaced, I know words here. I get it spaced all the way around the watering can, and I'm just doing my white paint in there and just careful not to get it over that blue. I should have placed tape up there. It ended up being fine, but that would have made things a lot easier. But I just went through each of these stripes, making sure that they each had a good coverage. 2 coats minimum of the red, 3 coats to make it a little bit darker if you want. And I was just really careful over those the painter's tape there to make sure that when I lifted that up, I would get really crisp and really clear lines. So you can see here I'm taking off that paint and how crisp those lines are. If you do have any bleed through, just take a little bit of white on your paintbrush and go over the little areas that might bleed through. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, you should paint your base color first and then your top color. If you have the time to do that, go ahead and try that. I've never had it be it just takes a lot of extra time, and I get that sometimes you want it to be perfect, but I feel like the amount of bleed through I have doing it just this way like saves me so much time. It's very rare that I do ever. I had like one little spot here, so all I had to do was just kind of go over it like that, and then voila, it was fixed. So I do know the method of painting the base color first. It takes a lot of extra time, and sometimes when you're trying to get videos out, you just go with it, and I honestly don't have too much of a problem with it. Now, if you have some star stencils, use that. I did not have any, so I just cut some out on my cutting machine, just some vinyl that I used as a stencil here. I know at Dollar Tree you can get stencils that have stars on them. You can use star stickers. You can freehand them. So many different ways to get stars onto your item here. Trace some that you might have. You could even glue some on there as a little bit of an extra embellishment. But I just did the white paint on that. I did them above each of the red stripes there. I thought that that was a good way to kind of space them. And you can see when I peel those back how good they look. Now, I did decide to rough this up a little bit. I think I might end up putting this on my porch. So I wanted it to look like it had been sitting out for a couple of years. It was kind of aged, something not as new. And so I thought that sanding it, I really liked how that looked. And this is a hard coat Mod Podge I painted on there to protect it. And you guys, this is one of my favorite 4th of July projects I've ever done. I think it turned out so cute. I mean, you would pay big bucks for this, I feel like, at a craft show or something. And I think it's darling just to have a little plant in it. It is a functional watering can, so I can use it for that. It is protected with that Mod Podge, but I really think I'm just going to use it as a decor piece. Do you guys like this at all? Would you guys put this on your porch, or would you keep it in your house?
I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.